Hello. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hopefully you all are doing well. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me all right. I've been having some internet issues today. So hopefully the stream is coming through fine. We're going to talk a little NFL. We're going to talk a little PGA. And then I think Steve is going to come on tomorrow, I think, unless he is not able to with his travel schedule. You're good? Okay. Hopefully it ends up being okay. And then Friday, we will talk about conference championship weekend, AFC, NFC, obviously Rams, Seahawks, Patriots, Broncos. We'll kind of dive into those games then. And then I will stream Sunday as well in the morning like we typically do before the games. And we'll kind of build a DFS team, figure out our final picks and thoughts on the games and whatnot. So, as far as like the NFL stuff goes, if you guys have questions or anything, go ahead and dive in. Since we last streamed, we've had some head coach hirings and we've had some other moves as well. So I think the biggest move was Sean McDermott getting fired by the Bills. Really not surprising in my opinion, but at the same time, it feels like a few years too late in my opinion. The Bills window has widely kind of passed them by at this point. Their team, from a roster perspective, this is like the worst team they've ever had with Josh Allen at the helm. And when they were getting really close to getting to the Super Bowl and losing, I would say Sean McDermott struggled in late game clock management situations, just late game decision making. I don't think he was particularly good at those things. So if you're going to fire him, it's like it's almost too little too late at this point because, their window has passed them by. And you always, like, when I say their windows pass them by, you always have a window to win a Super Bowl when you have Superman, Josh Allen, a top 2 quarterback in the NFL on your team. You always have a chance to win, but their roster is not good. To come into the playoffs with Brandon Cooks and Gabe Davis and Shavers as your receivers and to think that you're a real threat to contend for a Super Bowl, that's just like asinine. And honestly, it's insulting to the Bills fan base, in my opinion. So too little, too late. I don't think he's a particularly great coach, but to fire him and not fire the GM, not only not fire the GM, promote the GM is literally insane. And yes, Keon Coleman being the scapegoat is just insane. That press conference today from the Bills owner and Bean, just pure insanity. Is Keon Coleman not on their team? Why are they talking about this guy like he's out of the NFL? This guy is actively on your roster. And you're going to it makes no sense from either side of the coin, because if he's going to be on your team next year, that doesn't inspire any confidence in him to go out and have a good season. And look, has he been a disappointment? Yes. I'm sure Keon Coleman would agree himself that he has not lived up to his own expectations that he sets for himself. That comes without saying. But sometimes it takes receivers. Look, Keon Coleman may never be good. That there's a very real possibility of that. But at the same time, he's a bigger body guy. He wasn't a high separation guy coming out of school. I'm sure he needs to adjust in the NFL where the coverage is very sticky. There's a possibility that he has a good season next year. That's very much possible. So to talk about him in that manner, if he's going to be on your team next year, is insane. And then, yeah, if you're going to trade him, it makes no sense either, because you're just lowering his trade value even further. I thought that was an insane press conference. And then at the same time, to sit there and say the owner literally said, we lost in Denver because of a bad call. Then he said they fired McDermott because of the game in Denver. That doesn't make any sense. You just said you lost because of a bad call. Why would you fire somebody because they lost on a bad call? The thought process makes no sense. So whatever. The Bills fire McDermott too little too late. Who are they going to get? I have no idea. If they promote Joe Brady, I think that's bad. Like, promoting Joe Brady to take over for Sean McDermott makes no sense because you're running the same exact system that you ran this past season. And then it's just a complete wild card in terms of like what he will do in game management and any of those other aspects. Like, you should have just kept it how it was. If they go after a younger guy like Grant Udinsky, who I know the Browns won a lot, I don't know. We'll have to see, but interesting move from the Bills, firing him. As far as some of the hirings that have went on, so the Dolphins hired Jeff Hafley. I would love to know. I don't know if he's given his Dable, like, okay. I mean, you guys know how I feel about him, so whatever. I guess that's good. Sure. I don't know if have the Dolphins had a press conference with him yet? When it says later, okay, Thursday morning. So tomorrow morning, we're going to get the intro press conference for Jeff Hafley and the Dolphins. I mean, I would love to know what he did to warrant being hired as a head coach. Like, does anybody in the chat know? I thought that was the most insane hiring of anybody. If I'm hiring a coach in today's version of the NFL, I'm hiring like a team wanting to go hire John Harbaugh. Completely understand. Super Bowl champion. He is a retread, but you know what you're getting, and he's, has a winning record for the most part. You kind of know what you're getting there. I understand that. If you're not going to hire somebody like that, I'm shooting for the stars. Why would I hire a retread coach that wasn't good in his first go around as a head coach? Or why would I hire someone that's like Jeff Hafley? I'm pretty sure is like 46, 47 years old. And that doesn't mean he can't be a good coach, but I just don't know what he did to warrant like getting this job. Like, in my opinion, by all accounts, the Green Bay Packers defense was not as good as they were supposed to be this past year. So from a personnel standpoint, I think he underachieved at his job last year. And then bake in the fact that, like I said, he's not a young, like up and coming guy that maybe you hit on him and then you can keep him for the next 8 years, 10 years, 12 years as your coach. So I thought that was an insane hire from the Dolphins. I would love to see this press conference tomorrow and see what they say about it, because I really just don't understand why they hired him. The Titans hired Saleh. I told you guys he was going to get a job. I was pretty firm on that. He's very, very respected across the league. Another example, we've really never seen a retread coach really crush it in his second go around if he wasn't half decent in his first go around. I'm willing to give Robert Saleh a little bit of a pass just because the New York Jets are a complete dumpster fire. So I'll take his record with a grain of salt just because the Jets are terrible. So it is what it is. I haven't seen who they're looking at for offensive coordinator. Because I think that's the biggest piece of news there. I want to know who's going to be coaching Cam Ward when I think about the 2026 version of the Tennessee Titans. So that's the biggest piece of news there for me. Saleh, okay. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I have no problems with it. The Falcons hired Stefanski. I don't know if we talked about that on stream. I like that move for them. I'm going to tell you right now, I think their roster is very set up and kind of tailor-made for what Kevin Stefanski likes to do. And I'm gonna we'll see what happens like with the quarterback situation. But I'm probably going to be on the Falcons like futures again next year. I'm probably going to be on them to win that division. I'm probably this is like tailor-made Kevin Stefanski. He will go there. They're in a bad division. They're going to overachieve relative to what they've done the last 2 years. They're probably like they can win the NFC South, and then he'll be in the coach of the year mix. It's exactly what he did in Cleveland. He took over a really bad team. Now the Falcons aren't really bad like the Browns were, but he took over an underperforming team. Things broke right, and he won himself 2 coach of the years in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield is the biggest clown. I'm glad you brought this up, Guru, because this goes hand in hand with the Stefanski thing. There's something wrong with Baker, bro. I don't know what his issue is. This guy is like crazy. He asked the Browns to trade him publicly. This is not like it was reported. This is public information. He asked the Browns to trade him. And then he says that it was like so bad and Kevin never reached out to him after he left. Did he reach out to Kevin after he left? Like, probably doubtful. I don't think Kevin Stefanski cares or thinks about Baker Mayfield. Clearly, he is still thinking about that. I don't know what his issue is, but yeah, that was clown behavior. And I just couldn't believe it. Not surprised. It just shows that he has not grown. He still acts the same way, he used to. And that's what rubbed people the wrong way in Cleveland. That's why him and Kevin didn't get along in Cleveland. So, yeah, I don't know. But I think Falcons hiring him, pretty good move. Chargers getting Mike McDaniel. I made a TikTok about that. Great move. I think that really sets up well for the Chargers offense. Justin Herbert specifically it's going to help him a lot because the Dolphins, they could have quit on Mike McDaniel this past year. They didn't. They went really run heavy to close the season, and they were effective doing so. And that's kind of what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. They invested that draft capital into Omarion Hampton last year. I think Omarion Hampton's going to be a great fantasy pick, but more so than not, I just think, Mike McDaniel's going to be able to maximize from like an EV perspective how to operate the Chargers offense. So I like that move a lot for them. Minter, I think, is a lock to be the Ravens head coach, and that should come out here pretty soon in the next few days. I was going to talk about that. So if we look at predictions for coaching, the jobs that are still open, I don't have really a read on Arizona. I have no idea. The Browns, I think it's pretty firm. They want Udinsky or Shieldhouse from the Rams. They might have to wait a bit, though, because there's some weird stuff going on with the Rooney Rule because they didn't get to interview McDaniel in person. And then, obviously, the Rams are still playing. So we'll kind of see what comes there, but I think they're going super young at their pick. I think Minter to the Ravens is pretty set. I think the Steelers would not be shocked if they get Mike McCarthy or Brian Flores. I think like that's the two I'm penciling in there. I think it's pretty set that like Rodgers doesn't want to come back and play for them without Tomlin, but I wonder if they like get McCarthy, like could they convince him? Like, would he play for McCarthy again? I don't know. But that's like something to think through. So lots going on. I think the rest of the week we're going to get some more clarity on some of these situations, and then we'll see what happens this weekend. Like I said, the Rams are still playing, so if he's going to get a job, the team that hires him is going to have to wait a little bit. But I think that does it mostly for NFL news. Unless you guys have questions on anything, we'll talk more tomorrow and Friday, I'm sure. We seemingly get news every single day at this point when it comes to the NFL. As far as golf goes, we didn't really have any sweats last week, so we're down 0.68 units to start the season. Didn't really have anybody in the mix, unfortunately. Kitayama was in the mix up until like Saturday afternoon and then just completely fell apart. And nobody else made a run, kept it super light for the first tournament of the year. Didn't really play any 3-balls, any matchups or anything like that. So we'll keep expanding on that as the season goes on. This week we have the American Express. So if you guys don't know, the American Express, this is played at 3 different courses, and the cut is going to be on Saturday. So it is a pro-am. You have amateurs playing in this as well with the pros, but basically 3 courses. Everybody plays each course one time. They cut on Saturday, and then they play the stadium course again on Sunday afternoon. So this is historically, regarded as a birdie fest. John Rahm notoriously said that it's a putting contest. He said that a little bit more angrily than what I just phrased it. But he ended up, he's won this event in the past. Obviously he's not playing this week, but it is kind of like a putting contest. It's really easy. There's no wind at all from what I can tell in the forecast until this weekend. So I think conditions are looking pure, and I think there's going to be some really, really low scores here. So typically how I handle these birdie fest low scoring events like this, I'm avoiding the top numbers, because when you're playing a difficult, hard tournament like the Masters or a major or, something like that, the cream will rise to the top. That's where the really good players can really stand out because of how tough the conditions are. When you're playing an easy course, all these guys that are playing this week are going to be in position to make birdie. So it's just going to come down to who's hitting their wedges close or who's making putts. So that increases the variance a little bit, and that's why we typically have seen some pretty high odds winners at this tournament, especially in recent years. A couple years ago, Nick Dunlap as an amateur won this event, which is pretty crazy. So I'm not investing anything in Scotty. I'm not even going to play the winner without Scotty market, to be honest with you. I'm just going to play how I normally do and take it with some maybe 5 or 8 places. I have not finalized my card yet, but just talking through it, you want guys obviously that can putt well, but more even importantly, I think it's just circling in on guys that can really get hot and rip a lot of birdies off in a row. So, I'm avoiding Scotty. I do like Ben Griffin, but he's second in odds, as you can see on my screen here. Shout out Unabated for the all-encompassing odds here. I don't really want to play him at that number, but I do like him. I like Henley as well. Do I want to play him at 25-1? I don't know. Guys that really stick out to me, his numbers come down a lot, but I like Siwoo Kim, one of the best ball strikers on tour. It didn't putt great last week, but historically has putted pretty well at this tournament. He won this tournament a few years ago. I think he'll be pretty popular, but I do like him. That's why his numbers come down. I think he was around 45-1 at the beginning of the week. Now he's down to 35. So I'm sure people have been hitting him pretty hard. Harry Hall is interesting to me because he's basically the best putter in the world right now. And I just said, you need guys that are going to make putts this week. So it kind of just goes hand in hand. Harry Hall's putting is unbelievable. 40-1 feels okay. I don't like him at 35, but I think 40 is fine for Harry Hall. So he's on my short list. Again, have not finalized my card. This is short list. Siwoo and Harry Hall are on my short list. Ryan Gerard is on my short list. His numbers come down a ton too. He was up at 75, 80, I think, at one point this week. Another guy that's been playing very well, played pretty well this past weekend in Hawaii, can get hot with the putter. I like Ryan Gerard a little bit. I know Sam is on him too. So he's on my short list. Pearson Coody is on my short list for a younger guy that can get hot and make a lot of birdies. I'll probably end up taking 5 or 6 guys just because I'm trying to focus on these bigger numbers. But I'll tweet out my card later tonight for once I finalize things. I'm trying to see who else is down here. I mean, Grayserman at 100. You could talk me into that. I don't think I have access to Bet Rivers though. So 80 on FanDuel. 80 looks like the best I could get on Gracerman. I mean, he can definitely get hot on the greens too. Like, okay, do I really trust Nico Echeverria? Not really. He played terrible last week, but he is a good putter, good approach player. He was the most popular bet on guy last week, and he missed the cut. Now we're getting him at what, like 175 to 1, 180 to 1 on DK best line. I'm interested in him. I would probably put Nico, Jason Day. This is a big number on him. I like Nico, Day, Cootie, Gerard, Harry Hall, Siwoo. Like, that's kind of my short list. You could talk me into Poston. He can get hot with the putter. I would consider him as well in this kind of, where's he at? Like 65 to 70 range. I don't know. I haven't finalized my picks, but if you guys are researching golf, I want obviously good putters, good wedge players, guys that can make a lot of birdies. You can look at comp courses, but these guys are all going to be in position this week. It's just going to come down to who hits their wedge as well and makes putts. So, yeah, shorter stream today. I will tweet out my finalized PGA card later. I will be live tomorrow with Steve. I think if Steve doesn't come on, I'll still be live. We'll dive into some stuff. Maybe we'll do like a quarterback or coach ranking or something. I don't know. We could do like a fun tier list or something maybe tomorrow. And then Friday, we're going to talk the 2 NFL games this weekend. And then I'll be live Sunday morning as well. We'll build a DFS team. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me in the Discord. That's a free Discord, Rolling Insights. Make sure you guys hop in there. And make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on the road to like 300. I think we're over 200 now, so we're trying to get up to 300 there. But thank you guys. Good luck tonight if you're betting on college basketball or anything along those lines, NBA. And I will see everybody tomorrow.